White silk burned hotter than I ever thought possible against those soot-stained walls. If you'd asked me that morning, I'd have laughed at the idea that my whole life could split apart in a single breath, but that's exactly what happened. The stained glass windows shattered outward like someone had thrown a fistful of jewels into the air, and in the chaos, through the smoke and the screams, I heard a sound I'll never forget: a bride's voice, sharp and raw, cutting the mountain air in half. They say time slows down in a crisis. Not true. For me, it stopped, rewound, and started again in a way I'd never experienced before. I didn't think, I just moved. Me uniform, the one I wore to deliver wedding flowers, meant nothing as I crashed through the chapel doors, flames licking up my sleeves. The only thing that mattered was the figure in white trapped behind an overturned pew. Let me back up a sec. Victoria Sterling had spent her whole life doing exactly what was expected. Her mornings were arranged. Her friends approved. Even the shade of lipstick she wore had 4 generations of Sterling tradition behind it. This was the wedding her family had been planning since before she was old enough to say, "I do." The guest list read like a who's who of Connecticut's old money. The dress had more history sewn into it than half the state's museums. And her fiancé, Preston, was the kind of man who made sense on paper, but never made her heart do much of anything. The day started with her staring into an antique mirror, practicing how to look happy, but all she saw was a stranger in a very expensive cage. Yeah, that happened. She said yes to Preston because it was the only answer ever allowed, planned the wedding her mother dreamed of, smiled for every staged moment. Even as she walked down the aisle in a dress her grandmother, great-grandmother, and great-great-grandmother had all worn, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being marched to the edge of a cliff, not toward a new life. The Sterling family didn't do romance, they did mergers. Even her art history degree was chosen because it wouldn't get in the way of the real job, being a wife, producing more perfect Sterlings. That's when I come in. I guess Ryan Mitchell, just a guy delivering last-minute flowers in my beat-up Ford with Mitchell's mobile flowers scrawled on the side, courtesy of my daughter, Chloe, whose careful little hands made those letters mean something. I moved to Ridgemont for quiet, for a place to start over, and to give Chloe a chance to be a kid after we lost her mom. I was a fire captain once, back in Denver, before life took everything and taught me how quickly it could all go up in smoke. I'd built a small life here, invisible, safe, until that day, that fire, and the bride who would upend everything I thought I'd made peace with. You know what I mean? When you see someone in trouble, you don't think, you just move. The past, the pain, all of it disappears and instinct takes over. That's how I found myself dragging Victoria over a burning pew, her dress catching and tearing, the world shrinking to the sound of her panicked breaths. I covered her face with my jacket, counted my steps through the smoke, and carried her outside past the reporters, the family, the chaos, and set her gently down in the grass. Her eyes weren't grateful or relieved. They were lost, like she'd just woken up from a nightmare and realized she was still dreaming. Before either of us could say much, the world rushed in here, her mother fussing over hospital bills and reputation, her father barking orders, Preston pacing with his phone glued to his ear, already spinning the story to protect the family name. But Victoria, to everyone's shock, including her own, refused the ambulance, the estate, all of it. She wanted to go with me, the delivery guy in the smoke-stained uniform. That one decision, small, defiant, cracked the Sterling story wide open. I brought her home to our little cabin, where Chloe offered her coffee in a mug covered in cartoon cats, and the rules were simple. Help with dinner, feed the cats first, and say good morning to the flowers because they're doing their best. In that small, sunlit kitchen, the routines that defined us: breakfast at a wobbly table, helping with school projects, learning to cook real food started to change her in ways no one could have predicted. She learned to laugh for real, to patch holes in jeans, to fold fitted sheets, and braid friendship bracelets with Chloe while watching old movies on a TV that barely worked. The twist came on a gray morning, 3 weeks after the fire, when Victoria found a tracking device in her Percy, an expensive, professional-grade piece of paranoia. Preston had been watching her, not just that day, but for months. Every coffee shop, every friend, every moment of privacy was a lie. That's when the calls started: insurance investigators, rumors about the fire's cause, hints that someone had tampered with the wiring. It wasn't just an accident. It was a calculated move, a performance of danger designed to trap her forever. When she showed me the device, I wanted to fix everything, call the cops, confront Preston, wrap her in protection. But she had enough of being rescued. Our argument was quiet, fierce, the kind you have when you're trying not to wake a sleeping child down the hall. She needed to fight her own battles, to choose her own way out. I didn't understand, not at first, and she left the next day, packed a small bag, and disappeared into the world, renting a room above the bakery, getting a job at the library, figuring out who she was without anyone else's rules. It hurt more than losing my old life. Her absence turned our home cold. Chloe missed her, the cats missed her, and I found myself going through the motions, missing the sound of someone who made the place feel like more than a refuge. 2 months later, Chloe showed up at the library with a drawing, 3 stick figures labeled Daddy, Chloe, Princess Victoria. Underneath, "Come home, please." That was the moment everything changed. I saw Victoria again by chance, walking past our cabin, her face set in determination and doubt. The next morning, we found each other at the mountain overlook, the one with wildflowers blooming in every color. We really talked for the first time, about guilt, control, love, and what it meant to build something honest instead of something expected. We didn't promise forever, just to try again as equals, as people choosing each other day by day. Victoria moved back in, slow at first, stone box at a time, until it felt like home, not a safe house. She kept her job, found she was good at helping people discover what they wanted, not just what tradition demanded. We turned my flower business into something more, a place where people could plan real celebrations. Messy, meaningful, sometimes unconventional, always honest. Chloe took photos, capturing moments between moments, the things that made life feel real. A year after the fire, we'd built a business and a family out of the ashes. Our clients were people starting over, folks who wanted weddings in national parks or backyard gardens, people breaking free from expectations, just like us. We didn't need a piece of paper or a perfect ceremony to know we belonged together. Victoria even changed her name, not because she married me, but because she finally chose her own story. On the 2nd anniversary, as the sun set over a new wedding in the forest, Victoria was asked if she'd ever been afraid of starting over. She answered with the honesty of someone who'd lost everything and built something better in its place. That fire, the one that nearly killed us both, also set us free. It burned down everything fake and left us with what was real: work that mattered, love that grew, a family that chose each other every single day. And maybe that's the point. Sometimes you have to let your whole life burn to the ground to see what's worth saving. Sometimes the person you rescue ends up rescuing you right back. We're not perfect, no one is, but what we have is real. That's enough. So let me ask you, when have you had to burn it all down to find your way? Who saved you? Or did you have to save yourself? Leave a comment below. I want to hear your story.